It's Saint Paddy's Day in just a few days, and that means where I live, every grocery store you go into has Irish soda bread, and it's such a nice springtime treat. Now, I love a good Irish soda bread, but no Irish soda bread is as good as this one. This is Mrs. Sullivan's famous Irish soda bread. The first time I had this, I was at my friend's house. It was St. Patrick's Day the night before. She lived down in Yonkers. We lived close to New York City, and we went to go see the parade. I stayed over, and the next morning, she took all the leftovers from the day before, like the corned beef and the potatoes and the cabbage, and she sauteed them all in butter, and it was so delicious. And she brought out this soda bread, and I had never seen a soda bread like this. All the soda breads I had had up until this point were pretty dense, and they were delicious. I liked them a lot, but this soda bread was soft on the inside and really nice and crunchy on the outside. It had raisins and caraway seeds, and it had just a delicious taste. So the way you make it is you start by adding the dry ingredients together and you mix them. And then you add in the caraway seeds and the raisins and you combine them as well. Then you get a separate bowl to mix in the wet ingredients. In here, you're going to put in buttermilk, melted butter, and eggs. After you mix them together, it won't be completely smooth, and that's okay. It's because the melted butter and the cold buttermilk will make the butter solidify again, but don't worry about that. After you mix together the wet ingredients, you're going to pour that mixture into the bowl with the dry ingredients, and then you're going to begin mixing them together. This dough is a pretty stiff dough and a fairly dry dough, so it doesn't have to be 100% hydrated in all the little spots. You just want it to be mostly pretty well combined. I only make this recipe once a year, and it's always around St. Paddy's Day. I do that because I want to keep it a special treat, and it reminds me of my dear friend and her mom, and it always makes me happy when I get to make this recipe. One time I made this recipe and I brought it to work with me, and some of the people tried it. And one of the people there, he said, I actually really don't like soda bread. And I was trying it to be polite, but I couldn't believe how delicious this soda bread was. And I said, I know, it's amazing. It's so good. I hope you try it. After you finished mixing the batter, you're going to get a spring form pan and you're going to butter it or spray it with cooking spray. I've never tried it with another type of pan. I've always just been told to use this type of pan. I imagine other ones would probably work as well, but I can't guarantee it. So if you have a springform pan, I would go with that. After the batter has been put in the pan, what I did is I took a spoon and a spatula and I just used that to gently spread out the batter a little bit because again, it's a pretty stiff dough and it's not going to self-level. So I just gently kind of pulled it to the side so it was more even. Next, I took an additional tablespoon of sugar and I sprinkled that over the top, and then I dotted the top of the bread with little chunks of butter. This really adds to the flavorful and crunchy topping. After you've done that, you're going to bake it in a preheated oven at 375 degrees for 50 minutes. Once it finished cooking, I took it out of the oven and let it cool probably for about a half hour or so. It's a lot easier to cut into a bread that has cooled down for a little bit. It's easier to slice and it's a cleaner slice. And I just want to admire those delightful little craggly tops. They're nice and sweet and crunchy. And I think you're going to love this. You're going to be very surprised if you try it. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks, Mrs. Sullivan.